Folklore Anthropology meaning, definition and scope of folklore. The word folklore originated from two words, folk and law, which were used independently. The word folk is used to denote indigenous, traditional or related to culture, and the word law means knowledge. The word folklore was first used by William J. Thoms in 1846. Earlier it was known as popular antiquities and popular literature.
But later it was replaced by folklore. According to W. J. Thoms, the manners, observances, superstitions, ballads, proverbs and so on of the olden times were included in folklore for fear of being extinct. The concept of folk and folklore have undergone various changes and modifications over the years. Folklore consists of beliefs, customs, drama and dance, art, craft, painting and sculpture belong to the past which are handed over from generation to generation. With the development of modern society they are at the edge of extinction. Folklore of every society consists of folk literature, folk beliefs and practices, folk games, folk art and folk science and technology. Definition of folklore. Old and new attempts have been made by anthropologists and folklorists to define folklore. First of all, let us examine the earlier definition of folklore. Folk is a great proportion of the members of people that determines the group character and that tends to preserve its characteristic form of civilization and customs, arts and crafts, legends and traditions and superstitions from generation to generation. Webster's Dictionary.
Folklore includes the manners, customs, observances, superstitions, ballads, proverbs and so on of the olden times which were transmitted orally from generation to generation. William John's folklore is once regarded as the lore of the folk, where folk means the uneducated, pre-literate, uncivilized, primitive, or backward people. Folklore is also considered as the survivals of some old-time culture, a thing of the past. William Bascom, an anthropologist of the University of California, believed that verbal art was a better phrase than folklore. Folklore is a mirror of culture but not a dynamic factor in it, a projection of basic personality but not personality in action. Amos, 1982. Most of the early definitions of folklore stress on the importance of oral tradition, tradition of folk people, or uneducated people. These definitions of folklore raise many questions in our mind. Does folk art and craft, which forms an important part of folk culture, come under folklore? Have the oral tradition of educated people and city dwellers been included under folklore? Do the oral traditions of past which are recorded and documented now come under the category of folklore? Do the beliefs, values, character and stories created by the modern people come under the category of folklore? Anthropologists try to consider folklore as a part of culture. As folklore is a cultural universal, it is found in all cultures of the world. In every society, whether it is urban or rural, developed or undeveloped, exists some traditions which are informally transmitted from one generation to the other. So scholars try to redefine folklore in the modern context. Modern definitions of folklore. Alan Dundes, the famous anthropologist and folklorist, defined folklore on the basis of folk and law. To him, folk is any group of people who share at least more than one common characteristic. The common factor may be a common occupation, language or religion. All their common characteristics are considered as folklore. Hence a nation or a family also becomes a folk and its knowledge becomes the folklore. Folklore is the reflection of culture, both past and present. Franz Boas, American anthropologist. Folklore is the unwritten popular traditions of civilized countries. William Wells Newell. The beliefs, knowledge, values, morals, and traditions which are transmitted orally from generation to generation are considered as folklore in early times. In non-literate societies, the cultural base requires oral traditions for transmission of culture, where written tradition is absent. Along with that, the oral tradition of literate people can also be included under folklore. For instance, how to brush the teeth, how to sow the seed, how to plow the field, how to manure it, how to pray, beliefs associated with supernatural, traditional way of preserving food, indigenous knowledge associated with disease of literate societies which are transmitted orally from generation to generation can also be included in folklore. Controversy also exists on whether some elements of folklore which are written can be included under folklore. For example, poem in palm leaf, proverbs, riddles, folk tales and folk songs, Chilapathikaram, Kathasarit Sagara, Panchtantra and epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata have appeared in textbooks. In actual practice, we cannot say that they are not folklore only because they are written. Most of them have originated and transmitted orally. The folk songs presented through radio, television are composed and written by modern artists, but characteristically differ little from those preserved by oral tradition. Hence they are also included under folklore. Likewise, the word orally also cannot be accepted fully. The folk dances, art, craft and folk painting, sculptures are neither oral nor products of written cultural tradition exclusively. One has to learn and acquire the know-how of these elements of folklore through imitation, observance and in some cases rigorous training. Thus we can say that folklore is not merely literature transmitted orally, but also includes cultural elements like arts, crafts, beliefs and customs. There was also a belief that folklore was developed in primitive, savage, barbarian, illiterate societies and that it disappeared when the society became civilized, but according to Dundes, there is urban folklore also. To him, any group can be a folk with its own sets of traditions, tales, songs, proverbs, games, slang etc. A campus community, a military group, an office, each is a folk and has a folklore. In modern times, new folklores emerged in urban areas and diffused into rural areas. For example, new heroes like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Phantom, Mandrake, etc. have emerged in urban cultures. New heroes were being created and they substituted the traditional heroes. Folklore plays an important role in the cultural life of people. Anthropology, which studies the culture of people, cannot ignore the importance of folklore in shaping the culture. Anthropologists from the very beginning started to study folklore as a part of culture even before folklore as a separate discipline was formed.